The frontier town of Red Creek sat between dry hills and a slow, dusty river. It was the kind of place where the wind carried sand through the streets and every wooden building creaked under the hot sun. Wagons rattled through town almost every day, carrying traders, ranchers, and travelers moving west. But among all the busy people in Red Creek, there was one person most folks barely noticed. Her name was Lily Chun, though many in town simply called her the laundry girl. Every morning before the sun rose over the hills, Lily opened the door of the small laundry house near the edge of town. The building smelled of soap, steam, and wet cloth. Inside stood large metal tubs filled with hot water, where Lily spent nearly the entire day scrubbing shirts, trousers, and blankets for the townspeople. The work was exhausting. Her hands were often red and cracked from the hot water and harsh soap. By evening, her arms felt heavy as if they were made of stone. Yet Lily never complained. She simply worked quietly. Some people in town treated her kindly enough, but many did not. Because Lily was the daughter of Chinese immigrants who had once worked on the railroad, she was seen as different. Some people whispered about her behind her back. Others laughed when they passed the laundry house. "Look at her," a man once said loudly outside the door. "She spent her whole life washing other people's dirt." A few people nearby chuckled. Inside, Lily heard every word, but she kept scrubbing. Lily had learned long ago that arguing would only make things worse. Instead, she focused on her work. Her father had always told her something before he passed away. Hard work and kindness are stronger than anger. So Lily followed that advice every day. What most people in Red Creek never noticed was that Lily was one of the most generous people in town. When an elderly widow named Mrs. Carter couldn't afford to pay for her laundry anymore, Lily continued washing the woman's clothes anyway. She simply told the widow it was already paid for. When a group of orphan children living near the church ran out of clean clothes, Lily quietly left freshly washed shirts and blankets outside their door at night. She never asked for thanks. She only smiled when she saw them wearing the clean clothes the next day. One hot afternoon, when the sun burned high in the sky, the sound of horse hooves echoed through the main street of Red Creek. People turned their heads as a tall rider entered town. The man rode a strong brown horse and carried himself with calm confidence. His long dark hair was tied behind his shoulders, and his sharp eyes carefully watched everything around him. His name was Taza, an Apache warrior and trader known in several frontier towns. Sometimes he worked as a scout, guiding wagon trains through difficult land. Other times he traded horses, tools, and leather goods. Many people in Red Creek didn't fully trust him simply because he was Apache. They watched him with cautious eyes as he rode down the street. Taza didn't seem to mind. He dismounted near the trading post and tied his horse to the wooden rail. As he walked down the street, something caught his attention: the small laundry house with steam drifting from its windows. Through the open door, he saw Lily. She stood beside a large tub of water, scrubbing a dusty rancher's shirt against a washboard. Her sleeves were rolled up and strands of dark hair had fallen across her face. Sweat glistened on her forehead from the heat of the room. Outside, two young men passed by and laughed. "There's Red Creek's finest lady," one of them joked loudly. "Queen of dirty socks." The men laughed and walked on. Lily lowered her eyes but kept working. Taza stopped walking. He watched her quietly for a moment. Unlike the others, he didn't see weakness or embarrassment. Instead, he noticed something different: the way she continued working with patience, refusing to let cruel words change her calm expression. In Apache culture, strength wasn't always loud. Sometimes the strongest people were the ones who endured hardship without bitterness. Taza recognized that strength immediately. As he stood there, The quiet laundry girl looked up briefly and noticed him watching. Their eyes met for only a second. Lily quickly looked away and returned to her work. But something about that moment stayed in Taz's mind, for the first time since riding into Red Creek. He smiled slightly. The people of the town saw only a poor laundry girl, but Taza had the feeling there was much more to her story than anyone realized. In the weeks after that quiet moment outside the laundry house, life in the frontier town of Red Creek continued as usual. Wagons rolled through the dusty streets, ranchers argued over cattle prices, and the small bell above the general store door rang constantly as customers came and went. Inside the laundry house, Lily Chun continued her daily routine. Before sunrise, she lit the stove to heat water. By mid-morning, steam filled the room as shirts, coats, and blankets soaked in large metal tubs. The air was thick with soap and heat, and Lily worked steadily, scrubbing and rinsing clothes until her arms ached. Most days passed the same way, but one morning, something unusual happened. The sound of a horse stopping outside the laundry house made Lily pause. She wiped her hands on a cloth and glanced toward the open doorway. Standing there was the Apache rider she had noticed weeks before. Taza. He stepped inside slowly, his boots quiet on the wooden floor. The room felt even warmer with his presence, and Lily suddenly felt nervous. Unsure why a respected Apache trader would come to a place like this, she lowered her head politely. "Good morning," she said softly. Taza nodded. "Good morning." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The only sound in the room was the gentle sloshing of water in the washtubs. Then Taza reached into a leather bag and placed several dusty shirts on the table. "These need washing," he said. Lily nodded quickly. "Of course. I can have them ready tomorrow." But Taza didn't leave right away. Instead, he looked around the small room, the worn wooden walls, the steaming tubs, and the young woman working alone in the heat. "You work here every day?" he asked. "Yes," Lily replied. "It is my job." Taza studied her expression. Even after hours of hard labor, she still carried herself with quiet dignity. "You help many people?" he said. Lily looked surprised. "It is just washing clothes." Taza shook his head slightly. "No, it is more than that." Lily didn't understand what he meant, but before she could ask, Taza gave a small nod and left the laundry house. From that day on, he began visiting Red Creek more often. Each time he came, he brought laundry. Sometimes it was shirts, sometimes blankets or saddlecloths. But the visits always seemed longer than necessary. At first, Lily thought nothing of it. She simply did her work while he waited. Slowly, they began speaking more. Taza told her small stories about traveling across the desert and guiding wagon trains through mountain passes. Lily listened quietly, fascinated by the world beyond the town she had lived in her whole life. In return, Lily shared simple stories about her childhood and the laundry house her father had once owned. Unlike many townspeople, Taza never mocked her work. In fact, he respected it. One evening, as the sun was setting and the sky turned orange over Red Creek, Taza surprised her with a question. "Lily," he said calmly, "have you ever thought about leaving this town?" She blinked in confusion. "Leaving?" she repeated. "Yes, starting a different life." Lily hesitated. The idea felt impossible. The laundry house was all she had ever known. "I would not know where to go," she admitted. Quietly. Taza looked thoughtful for a moment. Then he said something that would soon shake the entire town. "You could come with me?" Lily's eyes widened. "Come with you?" Taza nodded calmly. "As my wife." For several seconds, Lily couldn't speak. The words seemed unreal. An Apache warrior asking the poor laundry girl of Red Creek to marry him? It sounded impossible. But Taza's expression was serious. "I have watched how you treat people," he continued. "You are strong, even when others are cruel. That is rare." Lily felt her heart beating faster. No one had ever spoken to her that way before. She didn't answer right away. But news in small towns spreads quickly. Within 2 days, the entire town of Red Creek was buzzing with rumors. The Apache trader is marrying the laundry girl. People laughed in the saloon, whispered in the church, and shook their heads in disbelief. Some said the marriage would never last. Others said the whole idea was foolish. But Lily and Taza ignored the gossip. A week later, under the tall cottonwood trees outside town, they stood together and quietly exchanged vows. The ceremony was simple. A few curious townspeople gathered nearby, mostly to watch the strange event. Some smirked. Others whispered behind their hands. They expected the marriage to fail quickly, but as Lily stood beside Taza beneath the wide western sky, she felt something she had never felt before. Hope. And neither of them realized that this unexpected marriage would soon reveal a secret powerful enough to change Lily's entire life. After their quiet wedding beneath the cottonwood trees, Lily Chen left the only place she had ever truly known. The laundry house in Red Creek, with its steaming tubs and endless piles of clothes, had been her whole world for years. Now, she sat on the back of Taza's horse as they rode away from town toward a new life. The road out of Red Creek stretched through wide, dry land. Dust rose beneath the horses' hooves as they passed tall grasses and scattered desert plants. In the distance, rocky hills stood like silent guardians over the valley. For Lily, everything felt both frightening and exciting. She had never traveled far beyond the town before. The open land seemed endless, and the quiet of the frontier felt very different from the busy streets of Red Creek. Taza rode calmly, guiding the horse along a narrow trail that led toward the foothills. "You will like it there," he said gently, noticing Lily looking around nervously. "Where we are going?" "Yes," he replied. "It is peaceful." After several hours of riding, they finally reached a small ranch surrounded by open land. A modest wooden house stood beside a barn, and a fenced pasture stretched across the valley floor. A few horses grazed quietly, lifting their heads as the riders approached. Lily stared in surprise. "This is your home?" she asked. Taza nodded. "It is not large," he said, "but it is strong." To Lily, it felt like a palace compared to the cramped laundry house she had lived beside for so long. The first few weeks were not easy. Life on the frontier required many new skills that Lily had never learned before. Instead of washing clothes all day, she now helped care for animals, gather firewood, and cook meals over an outdoor stove. At first, she struggled. The first time she tried to ride a horse alone, she nearly slid off the saddle. Taza had to catch the horse before it wandered too far. Lily laughed nervously, embarrassed by her mistake. But Taza simply smiled. "Everyone falls at the beginning," he told her. "Learning is part of strength." Slowly, Lily began to improve. Taza showed her how to guide a horse gently instead of pulling the reins too hard. He taught her how to recognize weather changes by watching the clouds and feeling the wind. He also showed her how to grow vegetables in the dry soil by digging small irrigation channels that carried water from a nearby stream. Every lesson brought new confidence to Lily. For the first time in her life, she felt capable of more than just scrubbing laundry. In the evenings, they often sat outside the small house and watched the sun set behind the hills. The sky turned shades of orange, pink, and deep purple as the land slowly cooled after the hot day. During those quiet moments, Lily realized something important. Taza treated her as an equal. He asked her opinions when making decisions about the ranch. He listened when she spoke. He respected her ideas. No one in Red Creek had ever done that before. However, the town had not completely forgotten them. Every few weeks, Lily and Taza rode back to Red Creek to trade vegetables, eggs, and leather goods. While some people greeted them politely, others still whispered when they passed. "There goes the Apache and his laundry bride," one rancher muttered once near the saloon. A group of men laughed. Lily heard the comment and felt her old embarrassment returning. She lowered her eyes, just as she used to do in the laundry house. But Taza remained calm. He never argued with the townspeople. He never tried to prove them wrong. Instead, he simply finished their business in town and rode back to the ranch. One afternoon, Lily finally asked him about it while they were riding home. "Why do you ignore them?" she said quietly. "They laugh at us." Taza looked toward the distant hills before answering. "Because their laughter does not change the truth." Lily frowned slightly. "What truth?" Taza gave a small, mysterious smile. "That someday they will understand." Lily didn't know what he meant. As far as she could see, they were simply living a humble life on a small ranch far from town. But Taza spoke with the calm confidence of someone who knew something others did not. And though Lily couldn't yet see it, the quiet life they were building in the valley was only the beginning. Soon, a secret Taza had kept hidden for years would come to light, one that would shock the entire town of Red Creek and change the way everyone saw the once mocked laundry girl forever, nearly. A year passed after Lily and Taza began their life on the small ranch in the valley. By then, the seasons had changed more than once, and Lily herself had changed in ways she never imagined. The shy laundry girl who once spent every day beside steaming tubs had grown stronger and more confident. She could ride a horse across the valley without fear, gather eggs from the chicken coop, and help repair fences when winter winds knocked them down. Her hands were still rough from work, but now they were the hands of a frontier ranch woman. Life on the ranch was simple but steady. The small vegetable garden Lily planted behind the house had grown well, and Taza's horses were strong and healthy. Together they sold eggs, vegetables, and leather goods in Red Creek every few weeks. But the townspeople still whispered. Whenever Lily walked down the dusty street beside Taza, some people glanced at her with amused smiles. "Imagine that," one shopkeeper once said quietly to another. "The laundry girl thinks she's a rancher now." The two men laughed softly. Lily pretended not to hear, but inside, the old sting of embarrassment still remained. Taza, however, never seemed bothered. He stayed calm and quiet, just as he always had. In fact, sometimes he looked almost amused by the town's attitude. Then one winter, everything changed. It began with a storm unlike any Red Creek had seen in years. Dark clouds rolled across the sky, and freezing winds swept through the valley. For 3 days straight, snow fell heavily across the land. Barn roofs collapsed under the weight. Crops froze in the fields. Several ranchers lost cattle that wandered into the storm and never returned. When the storm finally ended, the town of Red Creek looked very different. Broken fences, damaged farms, and empty food stores left many families worried about the coming months. Soon the town leaders called a meeting inside the church hall. Nearly everyone came: ranchers, merchants, farmers, and worried families hoping to find a solution. Lily and Taza attended quietly, sitting near the back of the room. Voices filled the hall as people argued. "We won't have enough food until spring." "My barn is destroyed." "Half my cattle are gone." Frustration and fear spread through the crowd. Finally, the town mayor raised his hands for silence. "We need help," he said seriously. "If we do nothing, some families may lose their farms before summer." But no one had a clear solution. For a moment, the room grew quiet. Then, to everyone's surprise, Taza slowly stood up. Many people turned to look at him. Some whispered quietly, surprised that the quiet Apache trader would speak at a town meeting. Taza's voice was calm but firm. "There is land nearby that can help the town," he said. Several people frowned in confusion. "What land?" someone asked. Taza glanced briefly at Lily before answering. "A large valley beyond the western hills." One rancher shook his head. "That land belongs to no one. It's been empty for years." Taza calmly replied, "It is not empty." The room fell silent. Then he revealed something no one had expected. "Years ago," Taza explained, "I worked with a rancher named Samuel Whitaker. Before he died, he gave me legal ownership of the valley through a trade agreement. The land is mine." Gasps spread through the crowd. "That valley is hundreds of acres," someone exclaimed. Another man stared in disbelief. "You're saying you own all that land?" Taza nodded. "Yes, but the biggest surprise had not yet come." Taza looked toward Lily, who sat frozen in her chair, shocked by what she was hearing. Then he spoke again. "The valley will help the town recover," he said calmly, "and Lily will manage the farming and trade there." The room exploded with whispers. "The laundry girl? Manage hundreds of acres? This must be a joke." But Taza remained calm. "I chose her because she understands work, fairness, and kindness better than anyone I know." Lily's heart pounded in her chest. She had never imagined such responsibility. All her life, people had treated her as someone small and unimportant. Now Taza was placing the future of an entire valley in her hands. For a long moment, the entire town stared at the once mocked laundry girl in stunned silence. And in that quiet moment, something began to change in the way people looked at her after the revelation at the town meeting. Lily Chun's life changed almost overnight, but not in the way the townspeople expected. The valley ranch Taza had revealed was immense, fertile, and full of opportunity. Yet it was also undeveloped, with broken fences, rocky fields, and a small cluster of buildings in need of repair. To outsiders, it might have seemed like a daunting task, too much for someone they still thought of as the laundry girl. But Lily saw it differently, with quiet determination. She and Taza rode to the valley the following morning. The crisp winter air carried the scent of pine and earth, and the snow from the storm still lingered in patches along the hills. Lily's heart beat fast, not with fear, but with excitement. She realized that for the first time, her life was not about enduring other people's judgments. It was about building something meaningful. The first step was organizing the land. Lily walked the fields, making notes about which areas could be planted, which required fencing, and which were better suited for grazing. Taza stood beside her, offering guidance but allowing her to make decisions. Unlike the townspeople of Red Creek, he trusted her instincts completely. Over the next several months, Lily proved herself to be a capable and confident ranch manager. She hired local workers, some of the very people who had once laughed at her, and assigned them tasks according to their skills. She taught them irrigation techniques to save the frozen crops, instructed them on proper care for the livestock, and organized a trading system to sell produce to Red Creek and neighboring settlements. It was not easy. Lily faced challenges daily. Some workers questioned her authority at first, doubting a young woman who had spent her life in a laundry house. Harsh weather threatened the crops, and the responsibility of feeding many families weighed heavily on her shoulders. But Lily never wavered. Each challenge became an opportunity to show her skill, patience, and fairness. Slowly, the people began to notice. Word spread that the laundry girl was transforming the valley into one of the most productive farms in the territory. Merchants came from Red Creek to trade with her, impressed by the quality of the crops and the careful management of livestock. Even the ranchers who had once mocked her approached for advice. Lily treated everyone with respect, remembering the hardship she had endured herself. She never used her position to humiliate anyone. Instead, she encouraged others to improve and succeed alongside her, more than the work itself. It was Lily's character that left a lasting impression. She showed that leadership did not require arrogance or cruelty. She showed that strength could be quiet and that kindness was a form of power. People who had once dismissed her as the laundry girl now looked at her with admiration, some with a hint of envy and others with genuine respect. Through it all, Taza remained her constant partner, guiding when needed but stepping back to let Lily shine. Their partnership was built on mutual respect, and together they became a team capable of facing any challenge the frontier threw at them. By the end of the year, the Valley Ranch had become more than just productive land. It was a symbol of hope for the entire region. Families who had lost their farms or livestock in the storm now had access to food and work. Merchants saw new opportunities for trade. And the town of Red Creek, which had once mocked Lily without mercy, now had a reason to look at her with awe. The quiet laundry girl had become a leader. The girl who had endured ridicule now inspired others. And in the evenings, as the sun set behind the distant hills, Lily and Taza would sit together on the porch of their ranch house, watching the land they had built, knowing that her true strength had always been inside her, waiting for the chance to bloom. Years passed, and the once quiet valley had grown into a thriving center of life and work. Lily Chun, the girl everyone in Red Creek had once mocked as the laundry girl, now stood at the heart of a flourishing ranch that stretched for hundreds of acres. The land was fertile, the barns were full, and the animals grazed peacefully under the care of skilled workers she had trained. But the greatest change wasn't in the land, it was in the people. The same townsfolk who had once whispered and laughed behind her back now came seeking her advice, guidance, and support. Merchants traveled from miles around to trade their goods, not with Taza alone, but with Lily herself, recognizing her as the true mind and heart behind the valley's success. Lily's life had transformed in ways she never could have imagined. The girl who had spent endless hours scrubbing other people's clothes had learned to lead, to manage a team, and to nurture both land and community. Her quiet strength had earned respect, her kindness had won loyalty, and her intelligence had turned adversity into opportunity. Yet through all this success, Lily remained humble. She never forgot the hardships of her youth. She continued helping those in need, feeding families who had lost everything, providing work to struggling neighbors, and offering guidance to young women who, like her, had been underestimated. Where once she had endured ridicule in silence, now she quietly taught others that perseverance, patience, and compassion were far more powerful than mockery or cruelty. Taza, always by her side, watched with pride. He had recognized Lily's strength from the very beginning, and now the entire town saw what he had known all along. Together, they had built not just a ranch, but a legacy. Their partnership, built on mutual respect, trust, and love, was the foundation of the thriving community that had grown around the valley. The people of Red Creek eventually came to tell stories of the laundry girl who had become a leader. Children grew up hearing of Lily Chun and Taza, learning that even those whom society overlooks can possess incredible strength and vision. The town's once derisive whispers were replaced by admiration, and the lesson of humility, resilience, and quiet courage spread far beyond the valley. And at the end of each day, Lily and Taza would sit on the porch of their ranch house, the sun setting behind the distant hills. They watched the land they had nurtured and the people who now thrived upon it. Hand in hand, they knew they had changed more than just a valley, they had transformed hearts, opened minds, and created a life full of hope and purpose. The once mocked laundry girl had become the lady of the valley, and her story became a lasting testament to the idea that true greatness is often found in those who endure hardship with grace, strength, and an unyielding heart. And in the quiet of the frontier, beneath the wide western sky, Lily and Taza finally understood that sometimes the greatest treasures are not hidden in gold or land, but in the courage to rise above the world's judgments, and the love and respect that comes from recognizing the worth in others.